All right, ladies and gents, round 3 in what I consider to be the craziest group and the most unexpected group thus far in TTL Platinum. Not necessarily because of these two, though. LaaaaaN, unfortunately, he is 0-6 coming into the third round, meaning he very much needs victories. In fact, he probably needs a series win. Surviving is going to be tricky, but doable for him. He just has to start this series off on the right foot here. And then we've got Ganji, who has 2 wins after 3 rounds. So that puts him in 5th place. So both these guys are currently in the relegation zone, which makes it seem like whoever loses this series probably the favorite to be relegated. But, you know, for Ganji, he's not that far off from the players that are just above him. Jordan has 4 wins. And, you know, I think for Ganji, it could be realistic here. He's looked pretty sharp to maybe win 2-1, maybe even win 3-0 versus LaaaaaN, because 2 other players have won 3-0. And then he puts Jordan in that 5th place position. So if you're a big Jordan fan, you pay attention, because we'll see what Ganji can do here. Now, Ganji's playing as the Malay, and then we've got LaaaaaN playing as the Khmer. And it's been a bit since we've seen the Khmer on this map. In the first week, we saw Lix do it. Or no, I think Yo did it. I think there was probably another player who tried it. But the point being here is the awkward thing about this map is what happens when you run out of food underneath the TC. Very rarely do you see the farming work out, because you need to place a mill somewhere where there's no berries, and then it's just awkward. But Khmer, you don't even need to build a mill in the first place, and you do not need to, you do not drop off the food from the farms at the TC or a mill, so you can just farm freely. So if you want to play a lot of land army, picking the Khmer is probably your best choice. LaaaaaN's come forward here and trying to find what lames he can against Ganji, but Ganji's defended from it pretty nicely. But, you know, on that note, I have found whoever controls the fish to always have the edge when it comes to competing in the middle in this game. So, kind of curious to see LaaaaaN's approach. I think there's a lot of reason for him to not focus on fish being the Khmer. And the Malay are very well known for playing on water, so that will probably be the difference between the two of them here. Interesting build from LaaaaaN as well. He actually built the dock right away and chopped straggler trees in order to get a fishing ship out. But even this, like, this already is a sign. This is not a build that revolves around having heavy fishing ships in the long run. This is a build that, if anything, tells me he's going to give up on water. Especially because he scouted really early. He sees this hill. He sees the gold from Ganji. That's the only gold you get at your base. Oh, shoot. Guys, 1 second. I'm sorry. I got so caught up in casting this, I didn't post the Rex within TTL Discord for the others. So I got to post that now. There are other people trying to cast this stuff. Whoops. Thank you for saying something. See. Oh, wait. Somebody already did. Okay, thank you, JBR, for paying attention. JBR said he was going to go nap. No nap for him. Anyways, we continue. Way to go, JBR. Good stuff. Thank you. Shoot, what was I talking about? I think I was just talking about the fact that we're just going to see scouts. Just open scouts, play strong, make it happen. Easy peasy. And ideally kill quite a few villagers, because you're probably not going to have the fishing eco. Now, guys, in the past, players used to go scouts and towers. Now, this is before towers were nerfed. I don't know when you came into the scene, viewer, but there was a time where villagers didn't do as much damage against tower foundations. There was a time where tower foundations weren't as strong. There was a time where towers only cost 25 wood instead of 50 wood. And towers were a little bit more meta. And so I feel if you're going to go heavy land pressure, I understand that towers are weaker and off meta right now. But I think you just add that next level of aggression in. And if you have 3 or 4 scouts and you just building a string of towers and you're taking the stone in the middle, it could be good, because there's lots of stone there. And again, I do expect Ganji to focus heavily on that water. But Ganji should expect the scout build, so I think that he will either wall early or add a barracks so he's able to make spears. But yeah, the wall's starting to come up for Ganji. Malay to advance faster to the next stage. Big series here. It's wild to me that if Ganji wins this, that Jordan is in the relegation conversation in Group C. It's wild to me that freaking Andy right now is favorite to be first in Group C, sending Hera and whoever ends up in third place into the playoffs. The conclusion of this group is going to be wild. If you want it to be really wild, though, probably hope that Ganji wins like 3-0 or 2-1. That would, of course, destine LaaaN for relegation, but I would put Ganji closer to Jordan, closer to Barles, which is what he's hoping for. Ganji played Jordan, and he actually played Barles thus far. And he'll have Hera, and he'll have... who am I missing? I would have said, oh, freaking Andy to play. So yeah, Ganji definitely wants to get those wins now. So walling from Ganji. He's got 5 fishing ships, so he squeaked out a 5th fishing ship, which is a little rare these days. Usually you're seeing 4, and then you have the barracks on time, but his barracks is going to be late, but then obviously more food eco. We see the stable from LaaaN, which is expected. We even see a mill over here on shorefish and him taking deer. And he's scouting Ganji's base right now. Ganji's villagers on golds. Makes me think he'll make a fire galley, but always could be for archers as well. And LaaaN looking for damage. Just sees the house wall here. Might be thinking he needs to stop his opponent from fully walling up. And, ooh, Ganji trying to steal a turkey here. Looks like the town center probably shot one of the turkeys. A little bit of laming there from Ganji. But LaaaN's going to see this. LaaaN will be okay. And it should be spears coming out from Ganji. And Ganji's going to add the stable, too. I really like this. I understand the temptation to just play into archers, but I feel like it's so easy for your opponent to spot the archers with the scouts. You then need to move with archers and spearmen. You just have all this food income. I'd like to see a little bit of offensive presence to get forward. So this isn't a bad idea from Ganji. LaaaN's obviously going to see this and backs away right on time here. Res collected thus far, guys. Pretty close, but ahead for Ganji. But not with the food. It's actually just with the wood. 5 fishing ships versus 4 fishing ships. We have defensive fire galleys from LaaaN. As he goes for the second dock, we now have another dock from Ganji, who's still trying to wall towards the edge here, and is also going defensive with the fire galleys. Yeah, Ganji's just trying to full wall this base before he does anything offensive. But this is the type of aggression I expected from LaaaN. I was really sad for him in the first round, and then the second round, things didn't pan out for him either, but he comes in here with nothing to lose. He's obviously not... Oh my god, that quick wall, though! What? Excuse me? Okay. Let's re-watch this one. This is to be one of the best quick walls that I've seen in recent times. Let's slow-mo it, and even then it's going to blow your mind. Okay, so this is half speed. There's 5 scouts here. This villager should always die. Boom, boom. What? What in the world? Somehow calculated the angles, placed down 2 foundations, and now is able to have the army here to protect. And if you're LaaaN right now, you're like, I'm supposed to get wins against this guy? What in the world? That was huge. Ganji saves the villager. He didn't even have to. Like, even if I could do that, I would probably feel like, my time is better off doing other things. Let's be honest. If I could do that, I would actually attempt doing that, and I would feel really good about myself. But still, walls down for Ganji, I believe, completely at this point. Impressive to say the least, and LaaaN on the other side of things is about to click up to the castle age. He's got 8 scouts. He's got 1 fire galley, though. So he hasn't produced as much on water, and that just makes sense. With everything that we said, the build for LaaaN, the focus for LaaaN is going to be more focused on the middle area. But guys, like, the fact that Ganji's been able to find all these areas to intelligently wall, the fact that he's added all these fish, the fact that he has the navy, the fact that he also has scouts to threaten, all this stuff is so much more difficult than what LaaaN has really had to do. Now, LaaaN can hop in houses, thankfully, because he's Khmer, but he's got no protection. He hasn't walled. He doesn't have the navy. Doesn't lose a villager, though. This is an old man's quick wall. I'm not saying LaaaN is old. I'm just saying, like, This is the difference. You pick commerce so you don't have to click wall. And well, that villager's been clicked to the house. And well played, LaaaaaN. And LaaaN's going to come home and LaaaN's going to defend this. Now, you have to go to every house and tell them to go back to work. But LaaaN, not far away from the castle age, has good scout presence. Not looking too shabby for him. Did lose his fire galley, though. And might end up losing his fishing ships. Clearly, though, for me, this is going to be LaaaN farming. And LaaaN thinking about... Actually continues to mill the fish on the outside. But LaaaN just wants full scout coverage in the middle. And maybe an eventual town center or castle there. But what has the theme been, guys? If you've been following me in Titans League, if you've been watching El Dorado, the theme has been fish on the outside. Having all that eco out there is so important. And then, see what you can do with it. Oh, man. Okay, here we go. Ganji's making a move. Just passing here from LaaaN as he runs into a bunch of spearmen that are soon going to be pikes. And Ganji, who has the water control, is going to make his move to the middle. This area is visible now to LaaaN. And it feels like here, this is where you're just kind of stuck. You might not be able to execute on that next step because Ganji's eco is so good. Even getting gill nets now so the fishing ships will be more efficient. The TC will go up. The scouts now come in from Ganji. He's even added a knight here. Would not have put Malay Knights on my bingo card, but it's happening. And a knight's a knight. Went up against villagers. And LaaaN's losing villagers here as he's losing fishing ships elsewhere. And he really needs to find a way to break through. Here he's attacking the gate. That's the only vulnerability, sorry, for Ganji. But it seems to me like Ganji's been able to get the houses down. His offense has been incredible. His defense has been incredible. He's got 53 eco versus the 30 from LaaaN. And LaaaN's approach just feels like the approach that players had when maybe they first played the map. This is not the well-rounded approach we've seen so many players going for who've been winning on El Dorado. You cannot forget about the fish. And look at him expand with it as well. I mean, the food income's got to be off the charts now. I love it. He's got like 4 docks all set up just for efficient fishing right now. And there we go. Finally, Ganji's going to lose the villager. I don't know what she was doing out there. But it feels like as long as Ganji can just hold the current position and just play in towards pikes consistently, he should be okay. There's still a chance for LaaaN if LaaaN can drop a castle in the middle or something. But Ganji's even thinking about that because he's mining stone in the middle. Ganji's not taking any risks here, even adding stone walls, knowing his position right now. Maybe LaaaN can loop around with fires and kill some of the fishing ships from Ganji. But I imagine LaaaN is probably feeling a little helpless right now. Like, you're losing villagers to 2 Malay Knights, and you've got this whole army, and you can't do any damage. This is so sick from Ganji. Res collected. 12,000 resources almost for Ganji, and just over 9,000 for LaaaN. Massive difference. Now, remember, this is what's really interesting about how frequently we've seen El Dorado. This is one of the least played, least picked maps in gold. Because this was available in gold. In Platinum, this has been selected as home maps pretty frequently. And we've also seen it as Game 1 pretty frequently. So it's like everyone seems like they're pretty comfortable to play this. But there still seems to be the theme that there's always one player who isn't quite prioritizing the water. And the players who prioritize the water have the eco to be able to control the middle. And even if they've been castle dropped or anything, it's just that water eco is so important here. Ganji's defense still has been so good. He's building a castle in the middle. And poor LaaaN hasn't won a game all of TTL Platinum yet. He won 11 out of 15 in the group stage in the previous season, for those wondering. He actually won every series, too. So, not only did he win 11 games, but he never lost to play all 3. It was always 2-1 or something for him. What would that mean? I think 4 of his sets were 2-1, right? Yeah, I think 4 of his sets were 2-1 and another one was a 3-0. But the level's just different here. And Ganji was in Platinum last season. He stayed alive for a reason. And I think Ganji has come out even better this season. And I see the prep. I know Ganji's been putting in prep. I talked to players. I know there's heavy motivation for him, and I'm sure he's encountered this type of situation in some of his games, and he might know, like, I've done everything I need to win. I've got a 30 eco lead. This is ridiculous. And also with Malay, you could fish trap, but what I like is just consistently redocking, so your fish relocate to new salmon, and it's all really close. This is textbook. I think comeback condition for LaaaN would be if he had better eco, and he is adding lots of farms, but he can't really engage against this push. Can't really get access to the middle. He's just been outplayed in all the important aspects of this one. Ganji with the sick quick wall had the highlight too. I think he just knew this will be scouts from my opponent. My opponent will play open. So the counter attacks from Ganji got value. And Ganji aims to kill some monks with the Karambit warriors. Will do so. Will also kill villagers. Will also take out the monastery. Will also take out another monk. And you can't be anywhere near this if you're LaaaN, because if you are, things will die. But if you don't address it, you will die as well. So, yeah, best of luck to you, LaaaN. I want to see Ganji come forward and dock this and make demos. I'm not trolling. It's not... It feels a little flexy, but it's actually a good strategy, I think. If he was an imp as well, it would shoot arrows if he researched thalassocracy and had harbors. Probably one final fight here for LaaaN, and yeah, the Karambit warriors and the pikemen, too strong. Ganji played that one so well, and that's huge. That felt like a home map for Ganji. I think LaaaN tried to play towards his strengths here and open scouts, but more and more we see this map, the more the water matters. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 docks, 18 fishing ships, gill nets research, 0 farms. He didn't even try. Like, look, made a mill, no farms whatsoever. Versus 12 farms. And LaaaN did drop mills on shorefish, I guess. And LaaaN had a couple fishing ships. But look at the difference in the food. That's against Khmer farms and villagers on shorefish, some of the fastest sources of food income. It was really impressive. He used the uptimes very nicely there too, Ganji. But the fact that he was able to boom like that, control water like that, control land like that, and then also have the wall set up so nicely was really intelligent play. Like, I feel like there's 5 separate things he did really well, and if one of those things don't work out, like the walls or the fish or controlling the water or the land, there's always like one thing that can go wrong. So I don't think LaaaN's play is optimal, but LaaaN's play is actually easier. It's much easier because you just focus on 1 or 2 things and doing them really well. Ganji did 5 things really well to get to this point. But yeah, I think just the thought process with Khmer is I'm going to farm. I'm not going to go on water. That will be strong enough for me. I'm not sure it is. And we move on to LaaaN's home map for the next one to see if he can finally get a win. All right, so here we are, game number 2. And I'm excited for this one because this is LaaaN's home map choice, but also because the last time I saw Ganji play this map was against Barles. And he looked good on this map against Barles. Now, Ganji, you've forgotten to put a sheep underneath your TC. Is this intentional? It is intentional. He's going to push in a deer. I'm sorry for judging you. But yeah, man, like that one was so cool. Forget what the YouTube title was. It was like, this guy thinks this is the best migration game. Because I still think, with all the good migration games we've seen, the best migration game ever has to be the one from 2017, titled The Best Migration Ever on YouTube. It has to be. Like, that game went down to the final tree. 1,000+ units died on both sides. I'm pretty sure, if I recall, both players were on each other's islands at one point. It was ridiculous. Now, it was also old graphics. It was also younger T90 commentary. Some of those things might not gel well with viewers watching in 2023 and beyond. But, you know, beyond that game, the existence of that game, the game from Ganji Barles was really smart. Ganji also at one point had transported to the opponent's island. But I think the big things to talk about here are always the water aspects. So, insane flexibility with Japanese because of the wood savings on their res collection buildings like lumber camps, mills, mining camps. Is there a word that I can use instead of saying lumber camps, mills, mining camps? Because if I say resource collection buildings, that sounds really like... It sounds like if that was on the corporate like learning, right? If you just like started a new job at like a waste transplant or a waste plant or something, resource collection, I don't know, drop-off buildings, eco buildings, resource drop-offs, it just doesn't feel natural. You're right, drop-off buildings could be good, but I'm trying to think, like, is there anything else? I guess people could think that implies that the TC is then cheaper, which it's not. I think I could just keep saying it as I'm saying it, but I will see if I can convince myself to say it another way. We've now wasted more time. But anyways, yeah, Japanese have lots of flexibility there. For the Italians, it's the cheaper fishing ships, the cheaper dock techs, and then cheaper to go up to the next age. That really makes it strong. So there's lots of savings for both. It's just they're saving on different things. The meta, okay? The meta these days is 2 docks off of 2 lumber camps into 10 to 12-ish fishing ships. I've seen about 15 fishing ships. I've seen about 8. I personally feel like 10 to 12 is the sweet spot, depending on, you know, what you're feeling at the moment. And then into fires. And then from there, all the changes come in. Because you only have so much wood to play around with. So if you want to go for Navy, great, go for it. But then you might not have the wood to make a barracks and make a stable, which we've also been seeing. So it's really complicated balance-wise. But here's my prediction. LaaaN hasn't come off as super prepared. LaaaN tends to pick settings that I think he's familiar with from the past. I wouldn't be surprised if LaaaN does not drop the stable. If anything, I could see him dropping a barracks just for spears, which I don't think is bad. But I don't think he'll be doing this thing that I've been loving, where players go Navy and stable. Because I think the resources are going to be at the limit if you do that. LaaaN. Buddy. Okay, thank you. And it's just a bit too new meta for LaaaN, who I just don't think puts quite as much time into the game right now. Would love to be proven wrong, obviously. Before this season started, I said that LaaaN would win this series 2-1 in my predictions. And before all of group stage started, sorry. And then before the series, I then said that I think my early prediction would be wrong and that Ganji would win this 3-0 or 2-1 because I have that much faith in Ganji. That's what's tricky about the predictions is you make the prediction based on players' reputations and what you think they're capable of and what you've seen from them in the past, and then you don't know what version of the player is going to show up. And that was the case for me here with LaaaN. So, you know, LaaaN on 5 fishing ships right now. Second dock is coming up. Doesn't feel like the timing's been that smooth. He actually went to berries very early, which isn't necessarily bad, but no one's doing that. No one is delaying a fishing ship, so they go to berries on migration. And then he queued up a fishing ship and canceled it. And I think it's because he doesn't want any more fish over here, and he wants more fish over here. Got it. Is there still a big announcement at the end of TTL? Yes. End of TTL is in... well, it's October 19th. And at the conclusion of TTL, I'll be making a big announcement. I'm not going to tease beyond saying it's a really big announcement. And then there will be future big announcements. But this is me announcing / reminding that there will be an announcement. Okay, LaaaN's clicked up. This is not what I've been seeing, right? This, to me, feels like what I would have done the first time I saw migration. Based on what I knew of migration in the past. This, to me, feels like he's going to get to the next stage. He's not going to quite have the resources he needs to do what he wants. I'm not loving what I'm seeing here, considering this is LaaaN's home map. Willing to be proven wrong. Ganji, this feels like it's going to be really smooth, especially because it's cheaper for him to go to the next stage. But we'll see if Ganji can get the wood for his buildings, but you've got a lot of time until you get over to the opponent's base here, right? And that's the same for them coming over to your base. So I feel as though right now having the 12 or so fishing ships is really going to pay off. Now, what LaaaN is doing is he's kind of added the fish after the fact. But he knows, like, this is a fast castle play. And He's waiting for his wood, and then he's going to have to wait for his food. And we'll see. We'll see. We'll say that, like... Now, I'm full-time Age of Empires. I'm doing Age of Empires stuff 60-plus hours a week. I host tournaments. I play tournaments. I play ranked. I interact with players. I help players prepare. I am possibly on this game too much, okay? So, I come at it from that perspective. However, you're top 24 of the world. You come in here when you're promoted from gold, and the expectation is it's going to be tough to survive. I feel as though the minimum entry or the minimum barrier of entry for your preparation is at least like watching through a couple recorded games and seeing what other people have done. Minimum. Just like, oh, I might want to play this map. Okay, download the recs, speed through them on 8 times speed. Just see what other people are doing, right? I'm wondering how much of that happened here, because it seems like things are stretched, right? He's got fewer fishing ships, but due to the order of events, he doesn't actually have more than 1 fire galley in queue. Oh, but he did go for a forward dock. Ooh. He's gone for a forward dock. I completely missed that. Blacksmith in the middle of the map. Little lumber camp there is interesting. No loom. You see Ganji. Ganji going for the barracks. Maybe thinking about a stable. Now, this is kind of what happened when Ganji played Barles. Barles went for the forward dock. But then Barles didn't have enough to protect himself at home. This is eerily similar. Even the shape of the island's kind of similar. The announcement is I'm leaving Age of Empires for Fortnite. No, I can promise you that it's not that. The announcement is not going to be an announcement that will disappoint people. Well, I can't promise that, actually, but for the most part, I think people will be pretty happy about it. The tough thing about teasing announcements is people want announcements of different things, and I will only be announcing one thing. So it's like, if you want, me to announce that I'm finally starting my professional mustache modeling career, I'm not going to be doing that, and so you may be disappointed. Okay, dock on the front. Now, it's just 1 dock versus 3 in terms of production, right? So ideally, this type of thing is sneaky. The thought process is there to go kill fish, though. And LaaaaaN has really jumped up his numbers of ships here. He's behind by 4, but he's got 4 more in queue, and he's got quite a few docks. We have a stable from Ganji, so he will eventually land, but he hasn't done so yet. There's our first kill. And this could be good for LaaaaaN, honestly. Could be bad for him that this villager doesn't have loom, and there's nothing really stopping Ganji from transporting his scouts right in a moment, but Ganji hasn't done that yet. Ganji looped over here with just 1 fire, hoping to kill some fish. He won't find it because the fish are mainly over here for LaaaaaN. And they're Japanese fish, so they're still a bit tanky. Transport ship for LaaaaaN will go down. Not sure what that thing's doing over here. And a big demo just landed. You look away for a moment and you have problems here on this map. And that's why this forward dock could be so nice, because now Ganji could focus on the defense and he could struggle with the offense as he loses a ship there. Actually killed a villager back there. Ganji also making a knight, and he will show up with the scout and a knight in the middle. Where LaaaaaN is dropping the TC, and LaaaAN's been very active with his scout. So yeah, like the order in which we have seen things happen. Oh, that could be fishing ships, but the order in which we've seen certain things happen here has been different than other players from LaaaaaN. But it's honestly working quite well. LaaaaaN scout will see these villagers building the monastery now. And LaaaaaN, he has not lost this forward dock yet. Still always potential to run out and kill fishing ships from Ganji. And it's been a back and forth migration game here, guys. This has been really cool. That villager, though, is going to die. No loom is kind of a problem. Players are so used to, in their Arabia games, getting loom before they go feudal. And they don't do that here. No! 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 Ah! No! 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 Oh my god! 97%. He's got no villagers in the middle. He did his transport at the bottom of the freaking sea because it was over here. Oh, I mean, credit to Ganji for playing towards the stable and all the positive things that can come with that. But, oh my goodness, that is just so brutal. I mean, Ganji with the perfect finds. And guys, it's just like the small little details. Ganji's little quick wall in the previous game to save things. And, you know, that I feel like you maybe should have just walled in the Vil. You know, it's so tricky. Still extremely unlucky in some ways, but Ganji found a way to punish. Ganji will camp this, I'm sure, with that Knight, and he's now on 2 TCs. So, Eco KD's 4-0. Neither players lost a lot of fishing ships, and LaaaN eventually added more of them. There's the first fishing ship that just went down there for Ganji. TC is going to be completed. And LaaaN will try and make a monastery here, and he does have Loom. The sad thing, too, is he was getting Loom, like, as that villager died. LaaaN's still in this game, but he's struggling with the Navy numbers compared to Ganji, and he really could use a juicy demo here. And quite a few of these ships are weak. Ganji's not exactly repairing them, but you don't really have time and focus for that. Now, Siege Workshop's going up for LaaaN, and a villager building that gets converted, and this is going to shift more to a bit of a siege play. We could still see ships, of course, go down, and LaaaN's definitely hoping for some big demos. Man, Ganji's playing so good. I think for survival for Ganji, because he has Andy and he has Hera in his last 2 sets, he needs to 3-0 LaaaN here. Because it's really hard. I mean, Ganji's played phenomenally well, but it's hard for me to see him winning those sets. I think he can snag 1 win in each. He actually predicted, I think he would beat Andy in his predictions. It's kind of fun to see a player had done predictions before, and now I can, you know, bring it up, but this would be a huge, huge victory here as he demos the dock. And LaaaN needs to win the next 2 games to have a real conversation, a real shot at survival. And I will say the position right here, not bad. If any knights come forward from Ganji, LaaaN will have monks available. A lot of this navy for Ganji not accomplishing too much. Fishing ships looking less efficient. No farms here. No farms here either, but just things to think about. I want to show resources collected. And Ganji's had way more, but it doesn't seem like, at least based on eco units as Ganji lands a defensive shot, it doesn't seem like it's maybe that impossible for LaaaN. That, having said that, we will see Redemption now researched for Ganji, and his monks have been waiting, and with Redemption, he can then just convert the siege from LaaaN. And LaaaN doesn't have a stable. And because he doesn't have a stable, he can't compete with the monks. And then his siege push will be useless. Ganji knows that. Ganji heads over to defend on this side. He's prioritized a lot of his focus on land here. He'll start to convert the Siege Workshop. And now it's a tough decision if you're land, because if you eject with your Mangonel, it could get switched. And then, yeah, you could switch the conversion. It could have converted it right away. So he fired and deleted, which is the smartest thing. But it's now the perfect spot for Ganji to walk forward and drop the castle. Wow, big brain move. Force him to delete the Siege Workshop so you can place the ideal castle. And, oh, man. LaaaN wants a castle, too. But he doesn't have anything to protect the villagers building it. Ganji's going to see this. And he's going to chase it down. The knights are also over here. Now, that could be a conversion if it's not for LaaaN. Oh! Oh, it's not! Ganji deleted one. And now the knight is on the villagers, and now these villagers are getting converted, and Ganji gets the job done. And he's up now 2-0. And we go into Ganji's home map then for the final game. And poor LaaaN still searching for a victory here in Platinum. In what's been a pretty ridiculous group. And that, to me, just felt like Ganji was just a little bit sharper with the timings. And, you know, we got to see, at least initially, a much better opening to Castle Age, right? Like, the stable opening paid off for him. The Navy, there was more focus from him. The forward dock idea is really nice. But what we saw sacrificed from LaaaN in this game was map control otherwise. and also ships at home. The flow wasn't there. I remember there were 4 ships in queue for Ganji when there was just 1 from land, and the 1 from land was on the front. So you think, let's kill the opponent's fish, but then you have to overproduce at home, and then you've forgotten about land. It's so tricky, this map. But Ganji looks good on it. He's undefeated on migration thus far. And that was important. So let's see. You know, considering 2 other players 3-0'd land before this series, feels really important with where Ganji's at in the group that he does the same. The 20k plus resources collected. LaaaN is certainly making him fight. It's not like these games haven't been close. But just slight leads the whole way through it for Ganji. And I think a better focus on the timings of things. And you know, some people will argue also Italians feel superior, but I think we just didn't see the Japanese flexibility utilized. We didn't see the wood savings really mean much here for LaaaN in this game, which was the issue. All right, so game 3. And Mayans. Again, talk about throwback, right? Like, we've seen Aztecs a lot because of the monks and the eco and the all-in potential on Zawal. Mayans are like a big throwback for any closed map. You don't see many players in the new age playing with Mayans, but LaaaN going with something he's familiar with. And I mean, let's see. I mean, Mayans are Mayans, as we've said. They've got potential to do some pretty wild things, and that would be on the back of their economy. So plumed archers, eagles, all those things could be pretty good against the Portuguese choice from Ganji here. Now, I think this could add some confusion for Ganji, because I definitely think he's the more prepared player, and this is obviously his home map. But how many times has someone played Mayans against him here? I don't think it's happened once. So it does make you think a little bit, and maybe you lose some confidence in what your initial strategy is going to be, because you don't actually know how certain things will play out. The expectation, though, with Portuguese is castle drop on the neutral wall and probably a couple organ guns. And I think if both players were to do that, the organ gun is superior to the plumed archer, at least early on. But, you know, maybe LaaaN just chooses to wall up behind this, play defensive, and play into a lot of economy. We've seen quite a few of these all-in pushes die because the eco pays off for the booming player. It's just that the player who would play defensive needs to make sure that their relics are back here, they wall up, and they just play extremely safe. So yeah, Portuguese, great options. Regardless of what they go for, their gold units are really cheap. So actually, if they both were to go archers, for example, both civilizations have very cheap archers. But I don't think archers would make sense against Mayans when Mayans have the eagles. They also have the plumed archer, which is kind of like an anti-archer archer. And the Mayans also have really cool skirms. But we never really see that. And I honestly, I don't even know. Does LaaaN know that tech exists? When's the last time you saw the Mayan skirm technology research in a game? In the pro games, guys? Can you think of any? I can't. I mean, not recently. Not within the last couple months. Maybe I'm just paying attention to more so tournaments recently, so maybe there's been some ranked games, but we've seen it in community games with the 10 times tech, and that looks really cool. So I won't spoil anything more for those that are watching right now live, but earlier today we saw someone farming here. I'm not even kidding. And there was a good reason for it. Okay? That's all I'll say. Literally farming in at the very edge of the map between the wall and the wood line. The safest farms you'll ever see on this map. Alright, so the build for Ganji is the castle drop build we've seen. Portuguese, they do collect some wood from their berries. Or they get some wood trickle from collecting their berries. So Ganji went berries first, and every time I've seen this on arena-style maps, it's been for the castle drop build. And Ganji was one of the ones who kind of started it in the previous season. Since then, the organ guns have been nerfed, but the eco part of it hasn't changed. So you could do the same build order. And I think it was 23 pop. But honestly, I feel, as weird as it sounds, because I know the speed of the organ guns can be important, but I wouldn't mind 24, 25 pop, because what you want on the back of the organ gun push is a bit more eco to have the food to go up. And just like a 2 or 3 extra vills with farms. can maybe make Imp help you, Imp more accessible later on. Would it be a bad idea to just do that anyway? Have sneak vills that can take res all game without being noticed? Yeah, it would be bad to walk there right now because that is a lot of idle time. But I think if someone's pushing through, like if you're booming, right, and someone's pushing, let's say your Ganji and LaaaN is here, and he's pushing heavily. Sending a couple vills over there and just making a lumber camp isn't bad. Because they could maybe break through with a ram and build sneaky stuff. So doing it now is bad, but doing it later, I think is really smart. It was the previous series. It was the Valis and Lix series on Zawal. That game was awesome. And yeah, this is the 23 pop build. See what LaaaN does. I feel like LaaaN, he might not even know that in recent balance changes that mangonels are a pretty decent option against the Organ guns. Because that is somewhat recent. I don't know, man. Right now, it just seems like a fast castle from LaaaN. Into adapt from there, and nothing wrong with that, of course. We'll see. Did Jordan win with Mayans against Portuguese? No, this is the first time Mayans have been played. We did see Aztecs. It was Aztecs, and Aztecs make a bit more sense because of the potential with the monks. And the skirmishers in that game were pretty strong for Jordan. But yeah, obviously very similar. Ganji has decisions to make when he's in the next stage on how much he wants to commit to aggression. I almost forgot that he was just about to arrive to feudal. I was like, he doesn't have the stone for the castle yet. What a noob. Nah, this is clean, man. This is really good. Market blacksmith. He'll have the resources for castle age. I think you just go 5 to villagers on stone, and then you have enough on stone for the castle later on. This is also a tiny little detail, but it does matter. So whether or not Ganji wants to stay heavy on stone after his castle is still to be seen, but usually you don't. Usually you just want one castle. So what you would want then is you want these villagers to go to another resource, right? You're really close to your wood. You're really close to your gold. So it gives him easy flexibility to just go like boop, boop, or boop, boop, and he can just boop it. You know, just boop. The boop meta. His scout is weak, by the way. He used his scout to bring in both boars for extra efficiency. You have to assume he's going to be going for a monk, at least, to get the relics, and that monk will probably heal up the scout. LaaaN is building up in a way where he expects pressure. So this is smart, using the buildings he'll need anyways, just to protect himself here, and LaaaN is up. And obviously, it's a neutral wall here. This wall does not belong to anyone. So it makes it more difficult to know what your opponent's doing, and you do have to pay very close attention to this. But yeah. Okay, so things to keep an eye on also is farm count for Ganji. Food eco is going to be rough. This is why I said, like, this is going to be fast. But if your castle's not directly on the opponent's face, it could hurt you economically. Like, if it's arena and you walk forward and this is their walls, right? Like, the wall would be here, their TC's there. It's more immediate. I think, I guarantee you, like, LaaaN has never faced up against this build before. He's probably going to be like, what in the world is this? Villagers shouldn't die. Ganji should be fine. And he will drop the castle there. And the monastery. Okay, so now, what does he do with the stone miners? I think he needs more on wood. And yep. This is good. So you pull off of stone, you go to wood. You see what I mean? How close it is, though? That's really nice. It feels kind of silly to bring it up, but it is actually really helpful here. And the 2 on stone's enough to build up towards whatever. Maybe a second town center, probably not. Maybe an eventual castle, but you don't need that much on stone. Right now, gold is more helpful and wood is more helpful. Does LaaaN know about that? Wait, what? He's healing his eagle and his TC. Oh, boy. Oh, God. Okay, so LaaaN's going to go 3 TC boom, but he doesn't even know that this is going to happen. I love the TC positions, though, on wood and gold, and then also protecting the stone. And so he can take the stone. But guys, what you should do, ever since they made the change to these organs, is you add a Siege Workshop and make mangonels. Organs are so bad against mangonels now. They nerfed this strategy considerably. To the point where I don't actually think this strategy is that good, unless you also combine it with monks to convert the siege, which is obviously a bigger investment. So he knows it's coming. He's going to stone wall. Does he go Siege Workshop? Because Mayans don't get redemption, so they can't convert siege with their monks like Aztecs could. Siege Workshop is your best play. The stone wall's as good as well, LaaaaaN. Do you know? Guy doesn't play the game as much anymore. Is former top 10 talent. I didn't sense a lot of training. He's just really talented. And he gets the stone walls down. And Ganji's going to walk in here and get some of those relics right now. And I think Ganji's... He might even need to assess, does LaaaaaN know? He doesn't see it yet. He doesn't see siege. I don't think LaaaaaN knows, because in the past, it's so tricky because they radically changed the unit, because it was destroying siege before. It was one-shotting siege. So it was just really strong. But I don't think he knows. I think he wants a defensive castle, you know, before this TC goes down. I think that's his plan. But, you know, him not going for siege at all here gives Ganji some huge opportunities. And now Ganji's like, well, great. I don't need to get redemption for my monks. I could just make tons of organs. I could add my own siege. And we can just continue to pile pressure here. And Ganji's even going to run past with the scout to see, can I run through? Can I do damage back here? Maybe I can. He runs through. And he's past the TC now. And there's no siege. For those that pay really close attention to the game, this is probably a frustrating one to see. Guys, I even knew on the list of balance changes that, you know, the new organ guns die hard versus siege, but I didn't realize until I actually tried it. Like, you almost need to experience it. It doesn't feel real how little damage these things do against siege right now. But Ganji says, wait, hold on. What? Oh, Ganji has the relic countdown. It's under the TTL thing. So they forgot to put it on Conquest. Look at the bottom right. I was wondering why he said I eject in a bit. So he has all 6 relics. It's triggered the relic victory, which is not how the tournament settings are supposed to be set as. And LaaaaaN says, GG, never mind. Good luck next. Yeah, I figured, like, well, this game isn't going to go another 195 years because this is completely over. And that is just, you know, unfortunately for LaaaaaN, him not being up to speed on things. And that was a highly aggressive and executed build from Ganji, who ends the game with 6 relics. He's got 9 organ guns. He's got a forward mangonel. He had 1 second of TC idle time off of that. He was in a position to soon waltz forward and drop another castle. And Ganji gets a huge 3-0. Now, this unfortunately means that LaaaaaN is relegated, I think. Mathematically, probably, sort of. We'll look at it. But LaaaAN's still not finished. You could still get $40 per victory. And you could still ruin someone else's day. And I'm sure he's really motivated to show people what he's made of, because this has not looked great for him thus far. But just like some prep things. And Ganji really practiced a lot and is really in shape right now. So unfortunately, that was just a dud of a game. But let's look at our the probabilities now after that result and see what that means, okay? Input the result. Big 3-0 for Ganji. And my friends, after the 3-0, look who is in 5th position. With 2 weeks left to go, Jordan is in the relegation zone with a 50% chance of being relegated. 50. Jordan, 50% for relegation. If you're in 5th or 6th spot, obviously you're down. At this point, it seems like LaaaAN is inevitably going to be in one of those positions. There's only a 5% chance he gets to 5th. And obviously then he's still relegated, so it doesn't matter that much. But whoo, Woo-wee! This group's wild. We've got Andy on top after 3 rounds, Hera in second after 3 rounds, Ganji in third, Barles then in fourth, and then Jordan in fifth. Now, for Jordan has Barles to play. Obviously, a massive series, right? They're both 1 and 2 in sets, but it's the game's wins that matter. So, if Jordan wins 2-1 there, then Barles is then below him on the tie break with the sets won. And then Jordan has LaaaN to play. So it's pretty good for Jordan because Jordan has LaaaN to play, and LaaaN has looked like the player who's the worst. So that's a big positive for him. But, if he loses to Barles, we'll see. And then, of course, Barles has to play freaking Andy. You've got Ganji versus freaking Andy. You've got Hera versus LaaaN, Hera versus Ganji. So I think the race to first is going to be really interesting between freaking Andy and Hera. Because from what it seems like, Andy is going to be the favorite against Ganji, and Andy will be the favorite against Barles. But, I say that because Andy beat Hera 2-1 and because he beat Jordan 2-1. But I'm also seeing a really high level from Barles and Ganji, and it wouldn't shock me if they beat him. I think what would shock me is if Hera didn't 3-0 LaaaN. It would also shock me if Jordan didn't 3-0 LaaaN. I'm so sorry, LaaaN. It's just, if the other 3 did it, Hera and Jordan probably will as well. So that would shock me. Everything else, kind of possible. Hera versus Ganji. I think Ganji could definitely get a win. Potentially, too. I don't know. Ganji, Andy, I give advantage to Andy, but Ganji could win. Jordan, Barles could absolutely beat Jordan. So all these sets are going to be really fun to watch. This group right here, I think, is the craziest group right now. I think it is also the first group that has actually completed their 3 rounds, which we're supposed to have happen by the end of tomorrow. Some other groups will be really close. So, exciting times. This is where looking at the probabilities is really exciting. So, what would LaaaN need to get 3rd place? Oh, God. It hurts my brain to think about it, but if you go to the site yourself, you could try and figure that out. Well, he has a potential of 6 wins, right? He has a potential of 6 possible wins. So he would need maybe Ganji, Barles, and Jordan to all get to 6 max. Or something. I don't know. It's something to look for if you really are a numbers person. But anyways, good stuff in here in Group C. I'm excited to see the finish. It'll come down to the final game, guys. For relegation, with the Ganji, Barles, Jordan conversation, and then for first place with Andy, Hera, it'll come down to the last week final game. Guarantee. It'll be really fun to watch.